In lesson 4-4, we're going to be dividing by one-digit divisors. So there's a couple of steps for long division. The first is D, which stands for divide. Step 1 is to divide. Step 2 is M for multiply. Step 3 is S for subtraction. Step 4 is C for compare. And finally, step 5 is B for bring down. Now, what does all that mean? Well, let's look at an example. If I have the number 432 divided by 6, I'm going to start with divide. And I'm going to divide the biggest place in my dividend. So in 432, the biggest place is the hundreds place. I'm going to start with the 4. And I'm going to divide 4 divided by 6. Well, I know that 4 is too small, and it cannot be divided by 6. So I'm going to put an X on top of the 4. That's just going to hold that place for me. So instead of looking at 4 divided by 6, I'm now going to look at 43 divided by 6. I'm just moving to the next place over. So 43 divided by 6 is my first part of long division. And 43 divided by 6 is going to be 7. Because I move to my second step, which is multiply, and 6 times 7 is 42. And 42 is the biggest number I can get to without going larger than 43. So my next step is to subtract. Subtract 43 minus 42. Subtract 3 minus 2 is 1, and 4 minus 4 is 0. Next I'll compare. I'm going to compare my new answer, which is the 1, and I'm going to compare it to my divisor, which is the 6. I have to make sure that the 1 is smaller or less than 6. If 1 is less than 6, I can move to my next step. If my answer from subtraction was larger than 6, I'd have to go back up and start over at divide again. Now 1 is smaller than 6, so I can move to the next step, which is bring down. And I'm going to bring down the number I haven't used yet, which is the 2. So the 2 comes straight down next to my subtraction answer, which is 1. That 1 was in the tens place. My 2 comes down to the ones place, and that makes a 12. So my new math problem is now 12 divided by 6. 12 divided by 6, I know, is 2. So I'm going to put my 2 right on top of where the 2 of the dividend was. And now I'm going to move to step 2, which is multiply 6 times 2, and 6 times 2 is 12. Step 3 is to subtract. I have 12 minus 12. Do my subtraction problem, which is 0, and because 0 is less than 6, there's nothing to bring down. My answer is 72. 432 divided by 6 equals 72. Let's look at another example. I'm going to write all my steps down again. If you already have them in your notebook, you don't need to write them another time. Just know that we have divide, multiply, subtract, compare, and bring down. So if I have 380 divided by 6, I'm going to start with step 1, which is divide. Remember, we always start in the biggest place. So for this problem, it's going to be the 3 in the hundreds place. A 3 can't be divided by 6, it's too small. So I'm going to put an X right on top of my 3. And now I'm going to look at 38. 38 divided by 6 is going to be my first step. 38 divided by 6, I know, is 6. I'm going to put that 6 right on top of the 8, and I'm going to move to step 2, which is multiply. 6 times 6. And 6 times 6 is 36. Step 3 is to subtract 38 minus 36. 8 minus 6 is 2, and 3 minus 3 is 0. And now I need to compare my new answer, which is 2, and I need to compare it to my divisor, which is 6. Is 2 less than 6? And 2 is less than 6, so I can move to my next step, which is bring down. So I have the next number there, which is a 0, and I'm going to bring it straight down to the ones place and put it behind the 2. So now I have 20. 20 divided by 6. I'm going to start my process all over again. 20 divided by 6. And I know that 20 divided by 6 is 3, so the next step is multiply 6 times 3, 18. Then subtract 20 minus 18. I'm going to have to borrow, so the 2 becomes a 1, and regroup to make 10. 10 minus 8 is 2, and 1 minus 1 is 0. Now I need to compare. Is 2 less than my divisor 6? It is, so I can move to the next step, which is bring down. There's nothing to bring down. We're done with the problem. So my final answer is 63. Remainder, at the very bottom, I had 2 left over, so I have a remainder of 2. The final answer is 63, remainder 2. The steps again: divide, multiply, subtract, compare, bring down. So let's look at number 1 on your practice book. 586 divided by 2. So I start with the hundreds place, the 5. 5 divided by 2 is 2. Then I multiply. 2 times 2. The answer goes right underneath the 5, and 2 times 2 is 4. I'm going to subtract. 5 minus 4 is 1, and now I'm going to compare. Is the 1 less than my divisor, which is 2? And it is. 1 is smaller, so I know I can move on and bring down. I'm going to bring down the 8 and put it right next to the 1, which makes it 18. Now I start all over again. 18 divided by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. I'm going to multiply to get my number to subtract, so 2 times 9 is 18. I'm going to subtract. 18 minus 18 is 0. Compare. Is 0 less than 2? Yes, it is. So I can go to bring down. There is another number to bring down, the 6. So the 6 comes all the way down, and now I have 6 divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. I'm going to multiply. 2 times 3 is 6. I'm going to subtract. 6 minus 6 is 0. Compare. Is 0 smaller than 2? It is. Go to bring down. There's nothing left to bring down, so my final answer is 293. The steps one more time are divide, multiply, subtract, compare, bring down. Number 2 in your practice worksheet is 565 divided by 3. Start with the first number in the hundredth place, the 5. 5 divided by 3 is 1. Multiply. 3 times 1 is 3. Subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2. Compare. The 2 is smaller than the 3, so I can bring down my 6. 26 divided by 3. I'm starting all over again. 26 divided by 3 is 8. Multiply 3 times 8, which is 24. Subtract. 26 minus 24 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. Compare. Is 2 smaller than 3? Yes, it is, so I can move on to my bring down. I'm going to bring down the next number, which is 5, and now I have 25 divided by 3. 25 divided by 3 is 8. I'm going to multiply. 3 times 8 is 24. Subtract. 25 minus 24 is 1, and it is smaller than 3. There's nothing to bring down, so that 1, what do we do with it at the end? It's our remainder. So our answer is 188, remainder 1.